There's a doctor in Chicago. She pulls in $380,000 a year. She drives a leased BMW. Her kids attend private school. 3-4 nights a week, she's at a restaurant because cooking feels like one more task she doesn't have time for. Her mortgage is $4,200 every single month. From the outside, she's the definition of success. She's the person people point to when they say, "That's what making it looks like." Now picture this. There's a high school teacher in the same city earning $54,000 a year. She drives a 2014 Toyota Corolla with 90,000 miles on it. She packs lunch. She owns her furniture outright. On a random Tuesday, if her car broke down tomorrow and the repair cost $4,000, she wouldn't even blink. She'd pay it from her checking account and move on with her day. Same city, same zip code, almost. One person earns 7 times more than the other. The other one sleeps better at night. This is not a story about income. This is a story about a trap. A specific, well-documented, psychologically sophisticated trap that is swallowing some of the highest-earning people in America whole. And the terrifying part is that most of them don't even know they're inside it. Here's the number that should stop you cold. According to a 2025 Goldman Sachs report, 41% of Americans earning between $300,000 and $500,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. Read that again slowly. 4 out of 10 people making between $300,000 and $500,000 a year have no financial cushion. And it gets worse. 40% of those earning over $500,000 report the same thing. $500,000 a year, paycheck to paycheck. That's not a spending problem. That's not a math problem. That's a psychological trap operating at industrial scale. And it has a name. It's called the high-income poverty trap. And today I'm going to show you exactly how it works, who it catches, why brilliant people fall into it, and, most importantly, what the data says about how to escape it. How the trap actually works. Most people carry a quiet assumption through their entire adult life. It sounds something like this: if I just made more money, everything would be fine. Hit 6 figures and the anxiety disappears. Cross $200,000 and you're finally safe. Reach $500,000 and money just stops being a problem. The data disagrees, loudly. A Pimment study found that 48% of people earning $100,000 or more feel they're living paycheck to paycheck. Among those earning over $200,000, 36% report the same experience. Bank of America's analysis, which defined paycheck to paycheck as spending more than 95% of income on necessities, found that approximately 20% of households earning over $150,000 qualify. Here's the thing that makes this so insidious. These are not financially illiterate people. They're doctors, lawyers, engineers, executives. They understand compound interest. They've seen the retirement projection spreadsheets. They know abstractly that they should be saving more. The trap doesn't operate on ignorance. It operates on psychology. And its primary weapon is something so invisible, so gradual, so utterly reasonable feeling that most people never notice it happening. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it works like this. You get a raise. The $15 lunch becomes a $25 lunch. You move apartments. The adequate space becomes a space with a home office and a guest room nobody uses. You lease a new car because you deserve it, and because the math technically works. Each upgrade feels like a reward. Each upgrade feels proportionate to your new income level. Each upgrade feels reasonable. But here's what actually happens under the surface. Your income increases by $50,000. Your fixed costs increase by $48,000. Your savings rate stays at 3%. And now you have a more expensive lifestyle with the same financial fragility, just with nicer furniture surrounding the anxiety. And the most dangerous part: once a luxury becomes routine, reversing it feels like deprivation. The BMW stops feeling like a reward and starts feeling like a baseline. The private school stops feeling like a choice and starts feeling like something you simply do. The restaurant dinners stop being special and become just how Tuesday works. You're not living lavishly anymore, you're just living expensively, with no exit ramp in sight. What actual wealthy people do differently. Here's where the research gets genuinely surprising. There's a landmark study called The Millionaire Next Door. Researchers spent years studying actual millionaires, not people who looked wealthy, but people who had genuinely accumulated significant wealth. What they found shattered almost every assumption about what wealth looks like in practice. The typical millionaire lives in an average neighborhood, drives an older car, rarely wears anything that cost more than $399. About 60% live in homes worth less than $500,000. 73% have never carried a credit card balance, ever. Ramsey Solutions research found that 94% of millionaires still live in middle-class or modest neighborhoods. A 2025 Empower study showed that over 62% of everyday millionaires still budget, still shop deals, still avoid extravagant lifestyles, even after crossing the $1 million threshold. Warren Buffett, worth over $100 billion, still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. This creates a paradox that most people never confront directly. The people who look wealthy, the leased BMW, the private school, the restaurant every Thursday, are often the most financially fragile people in the room. The people who actually are wealthy often look completely unremarkable. The authors of The Millionaire Next Door created a framework for this. They called wealthy accumulators PAWs, prodigious accumulators of wealth. And the high earners with nothing to show for it? UAWs, under accumulators of wealth. Their formula is simple and brutal. Take your age, multiply it by your pre-tax annual income, divide by 10. That's your expected net worth. A 50-year-old earning $250,000 should have approximately $1.25 million in net worth. Most high earners who run this calculation discover they are dramatically, uncomfortably behind. The spending habits determine the category, not the income. The psychology behind the trap. The Charles Schwab 2025 Modern Wealth Survey found that Americans believe you need $2.3 million to be considered wealthy. They believe you need $839,000 just to feel financially comfortable. Meanwhile, the median net worth of American households sits at approximately $193,000. Here's what that gap creates psychologically. When you earn $400,000 but have a net worth of $300,000, you don't feel wealthy. You feel behind. And the goalposts keep moving. Someone reaches $500,000 in net worth and looks up to discover that comfortable now requires $839,000. They hit $1 million and find that wealthy means $2.3 million. The hedonic treadmill keeps accelerating and no income level can outrun it. 63% of respondents in Schwab's survey said it feels like it takes more money to be wealthy today compared to just last year. And then there's what the Goldman Sachs report called the modern accelerant, social comparison. The keeping up with the Joneses dynamic has always existed, but social media transformed it from a neighborhood phenomenon into a global one. You're no longer comparing yourself to your actual neighbors. You're comparing yourself to a carefully curated feed of everyone's highlight reel, people who might be even more financially leveraged than you are, but whose Instagram makes them look like they've solved money entirely. Six-figure workers feel pressure to match peer spending even when the math doesn't support it. A family earning $150,000 sees the vacation photos, the kitchen renovation, the new car announcement, and feels inadequate. They don't see the credit card balance that funded it. Speaking of which, high-income households earning over $100,000 had an average credit card balance of $12,760 in 2025. The top 20% of earners hold 35% of total US credit card debt, despite representing a smaller share of the population. Total US credit card debt reached $1.277 trillion in Q4 2025, according to Federal Reserve data. That's the highest balance since tracking began in 1999, up 66% since the pandemic lows of 2021. 36% of credit card holders earning $100,000 or more carry a balance month to month. 61% of Americans with credit card debt have been in debt for at least a year, up from 53% the previous year. The debt isn't temporary anymore, it's structural. The fixed cost trap nobody talks about. There's a specific mechanism inside the high-income poverty trap that deserves its own examination. When you earn $50,000, your housing cost is constrained by what landlords will approve. When you earn $300,000, you qualify for mortgages that stretch your budget just as thin, but involve much larger numbers. A family earning $80,000 might spend $2,000 monthly on housing. A family earning $300,000 might spend $8,000 monthly. Both families have roughly the same percentage of income going to shelter. Both feel equally constrained. Higher income doesn't buy flexibility, it just buys more expensive problems. And the trap tightens because the lifestyle is so difficult to reverse. Private school tuition functions as a fixed cost once your child is enrolled. Pulling a kid out feels impossible, not just financially, but socially and emotionally. The vacation home carries costs whether you visit or not. Selling it feels like a public announcement that things aren't going well. Downgrading the car feels like a confession. The Clarify Capital research found that six-figure earners are already responding to this pressure in revealing ways. 47% are delaying dream vacations, 31% are stalling home renovations, 26% are postponing car purchases, 17% are pushing back on buying houses. They know they're stretched, they just haven't addressed the underlying pattern that created the stretch. The savings rate tells the whole story. The US personal savings rate stood at 3.6% in December 2025, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Americans are saving roughly $3.60 of every $100 in disposable income. This rate holds roughly consistent across income brackets. That's the crucial, uncomfortable insight. Higher earners save slightly more in absolute dollars, but their savings rates often remain equally anemic because spending scales perfectly with income. Someone earning $75,000 who saves 4% puts away $3,000 annually. Someone earning $300,000 who saves 4% puts away $12,000. The higher earner accumulates 4 times more, but relative to their income and lifestyle, they're equally vulnerable to disruption. Compare this to what actual wealth builders do. Research from the Millionaire Next Door found that millionaires typically invest at least 15% of their annual income before paying for anything else. They pay themselves first. Savings aren't aspirational, they're non-negotiable. The difference between 4% and 15% compounded over 30 years isn't a small gap. It's the difference between a modest cushion and generational wealth. Let me make this concrete with numbers. If you earn $300,000 and save 30%, you accumulate $90,000 annually before investment returns. At a 7% average return over 20 years, that compounds to roughly $4 million. If you earn $300,000 and save 5%, you accumulate $15,000 annually. Same return, same timeline, you end up with approximately $650,000. The difference is $3.35 million. That is the cost of the high-income poverty trap, measured in actual dollars over 2 decades. The invisible daily drain. Empower data shows food delivery spending increased 10.2% year over year, from $162.40 to $179 monthly. Streaming service spending grew 12.5%. Rideshare spending increased 7.9%. $179 monthly on food delivery is $2,148 annually. Add streaming services, subscription boxes, premium apps, convenience fees, the total quietly approaches significant money that evaporates without leaving anything behind. The high-income version of this pattern runs on larger numbers but identical psychology. First class instead of economy. Hotels instead of more affordable alternatives. Restaurant every night instead of cooking. Car service instead of driving. Each upgrade feels minor. They compound into a lifestyle that requires the full income to maintain, with zero margin remaining for anything unexpected. And unexpected things happen. They always happen. The regional layer nobody accounts for. In Schwab's survey, residents of San Francisco said you need $4.4 million to be considered wealthy. Southern California said $3.4 million. New York said $2.9 million. A $300,000 income in Kansas City provides a genuinely different financial reality than the same income in Manhattan. The coastal salary comes with coastal prices, coastal taxes, and coastal expectations, which frequently cancel out the income advantage almost entirely. Someone earning $350,000 in New York isn't being irrational when they feel financially constrained. Their housing costs, state and city taxes, and baseline cost of living may genuinely consume proportions of their income that would be unrecognizable to someone earning half as much in a lower-cost market. The trap has geography, and geography makes it even harder to see clearly from the inside. What the self-made millionaires actually did. 79% of millionaires are entirely self-made. They received no inheritance. Only 31% averaged $100,000 or more annually over their careers. Many built significant wealth on genuinely modest incomes through consistent behavior sustained over long periods. 73% of millionaires never carried a credit card balance. They understood that compound interest either works for you or against you. And they made sure to stay on the right side of that equation from the beginning. The average millionaire worked, saved, and invested for 28 years before crossing the $1 million threshold. Most didn't reach it until around age 49. The path was slow. It was boring. It looked like nothing from the outside. It didn't involve a BMW. This timeline has a painful implication. Someone earning $300,000 who saves nothing for 15 years hasn't just lost 15 years of savings. They've lost 15 years of compounding. Those early years are the most valuable ones mathematically. You can never recover them. Even if they start doing everything right tomorrow, those 15 years of compounding that could have been working silently in the background, building interest on interest on interest, are simply gone. The escape route. Breaking the high-income poverty trap requires confronting a question most people spend their entire careers avoiding. What is all of this spending actually for? The doctor making $380,000 could save $100,000 annually. The income is there. It exists. It flows in every month. She just spends precisely enough to prevent it from accumulating. Choosing differently means accepting that the BMW can be a Honda. That private school may not be the only path to a good outcome for a child. That restaurants every night are about convenience and social signaling more than food quality. That the guest room mostly serves to impress people who don't determine how her life actually feels from the inside. These aren't moral judgments, they're trade-offs made visible. Someone who genuinely values private education and fine dining should absolutely spend on those things. But they should spend on them consciously, understanding the opportunity cost, choosing deliberately, not automatically, because that's simply what people at their income level appear to do. The automation principle works at every income level without exception. Saving what's left after spending doesn't work. It has never worked. It will never work. Spending what's left after saving does work. It works reliably at every income level, across every demographic. Someone earning $400,000 who automates $120,000 annually into investments will accumulate significant, life-changing wealth, regardless of how they spend the remaining $280,000. They'll still live exceptionally well. They'll just live slightly less extravagantly than someone earning the same amount and saving nothing. The difference between those two people, compounded over 20 years, is roughly $3.5 million. That is the number that sits on the other side of the choice. Every recurring expense deserves an honest audit, not a guilty one, an honest one. Does this subscription still deliver value proportional to its cost? Does this square footage get used? Does this car payment represent a genuine priority, or does it represent inertia? Memberships provide status more than utility. Services go unused for months. Upgrades deliver a week of novelty and then become invisible baseline. The money is there. It's always been there. It's just being spent before it has a chance to become anything else. What this is actually about. 77% of Americans don't feel financially comfortable, regardless of what they earn. 40% of people making $500,000 are living paycheck to paycheck. Total credit card debt hit all-time records while incomes remained near record levels. The evidence is overwhelming and consistent across every data source. Income alone does not solve financial problems. It never has. Only intentional choices about what portion of income to keep, rather than immediately convert into lifestyle, create the security that high earners assume their salary should automatically provide. The trap is real. The data confirms it exists at every income level. Breaking it is possible, but it requires one specific, deeply uncomfortable admission. More money was never the answer. What you do with money has always been the answer. The doctor in Chicago and the teacher driving the 2014 Corolla are making the same choice from opposite directions. One is converting income into assets. The other is converting income into appearances. Both of them know which one they are. The question is whether you do. The high-income poverty trap doesn't catch people because they're irresponsible. It catches them because they optimized for the wrong variable, for what life looks like today instead of what life looks like in 20 years. That optimization feels completely reasonable at every individual decision point. It only reveals itself as a trap from a distance. And by then, most people feel too locked in to turn back. The ones who escape don't earn more. They just decide at some specific moment that the appearance of wealth is a poor substitute for the actual thing.